Ladies and gentlemen, let us address another rumour concerning downgrading, this time from Tom Clancy's The Division. That's right, yet another Ubisoft game. So in this Red Game Etc.com video, we're going to be doing a little bit of discussion on this. Now, please bear in mind, these are rumours, this is not confirmation. But considering there's been a couple of titles already which have hit a brick wall with visual quality, I guess we're just going to have to see how this turns out. So how this basically started was an insider's comments, which have basically spread around various different websites. Now, they started from What If Gaming, but other websites are also running this as well. So just what's true and what's not true is becoming a little bit convoluted. But anyway, I'm not going to read out all of the quotes here because it's frankly too long and I'll be here until Christmas, so I'm just going to provide a link. But it started out by basically saying that they were really happy with the reception with the demo of the Division. It was actually the PC version that was shown, unsurprising and all. But basically speaking, they're concerned because they didn't want people who were PlayStation 4, Xbox One, in other words console owners, to then look at the game and then say, holy shit, this doesn't look like the previous footage that we've seen, and then they realise that their console isn't as powerful as a PC. Now apparently, and some of this might sound familiar if you've been paying attention to the Watch Dogs stuff, but they've removed things such as screen space reflections, and apparently they said that they're working on asset management at the best we can given the consoles have great unified memory. Naturally, we'll also be using online servers and have to produce a synchronization that higher graphics add latency, so that had to be turned down. To me, it still looks good, but not as good as the original reveal, and I'm sure as we get closer and actual console versions of the game featuring the Snowdrop engine, it will seem all too obvious to people, especially those on the PC, that basically there'd been a downgrade. And furthermore, he says that the lead platform is the PC, but they simply, and I repeat once again, cannot have such a big gap. And as you know, when we first saw the Watch Dogs review if published on one site, Ubisoft called it a false review. And I'm sure that everyone saw how bad that sounded when they saw how the game looked marginally better than something that was the last generation GTA 4. But no, they will not admit that they practice or actively downgrade a game. It's much easier to say that they remove things for stability, which is often a lie, as you can tell with the post-issues and expected of post-production. They basically pointed out they'll never fully disclose what was removed, and they said if we as developers publish that information in a very real terms for the consumers, such as replace particle fog simulation with 2D layered simulation in 3D space, remove particles from all explosions, lowered explosion volume, multiplied by 20, removed X hash of number of trees and civilians, we would have a lot of sales, and probably it would actually require too much time to deliver the current hype that the downgrade games, blah blah blah. Basically, lots of spiel pointing out that it would be really, really, really bad for sales. But since then, Ryan, what is his second name? I just missed it. Ryan Bernard, he's the game director. And he said that, you know, we're working really hard, especially this year. We want what we brought in to look and have on the Xbox One, the PS4 and the PC. The PC might even be able to push it. So basically, he's saying no graphical downgrading whatsoever. So what are my thoughts about this? Well, oh dear. Let's just proceed for a moment with the assumption that this is true. And then we'll go with the it could not be true in a moment. But let's proceed with it's true. First of all, who honestly, and I'm talking about anyone who's remotely informed and who is not completely blinkered with their opinion, who honestly believes that a PC is not significantly more powerful than a console. It's just obvious at the end of the day. A couple of weeks ago I released a guide how to create a PC for $700, which is basically more powerful than a console. It can run any game pretty much at 1080p, 60 frames a second. Done. And now in the news, we're getting developers, I'm not going to bother to report this because it's a tiny little bit of information, but I'm not going to bother to make this a separate story rather, but there's a tiny little bit of news saying the developers behind Outlast, I think Red Barrels, I honestly don't remember their name right now, which is really bad and shitty, but whatever. They basically said, hey, congratulations, we've managed to get the game, Outlast, running at 1080p 60 frames a second on the Xbox One, despite the fact that they had a limited amount of ESRAM to work with. I don't really... I'm not being harsh to them, as in, like, it's their fault. But they have to use, I think it was forward rendering techniques and a few other bits and pieces to basically make this work. My point being, it's not really that impressive if you're really being harsh about it, that they managed to get it running at 1080p 60 frames a second. Look at the specs that the game actually requires on the PC, right? Pretty much anything can run it. Unless you've got like a really bad graphics card, and I mean really bad, you're going to be able to run that game absolutely flawlessly. The bottom line is, you can get a mid-range, and I would actually go as far to say this is not really mid-range. I'd say it's verging on mid-range, but not quite there. GPU at about £150-ish pounds. You can maybe go a little bit cheaper, especially if you happen to get like rebates and stuff, which I know a lot of you guys in the US do. But let's even assume you don't. For about 150 Great British pounds, maybe 180, you can get a GPU that's at least 2.2 T-flops, possibly up to about 2.7. Right? And that's assuming the stock versions, you've not overclocked them, you've done nothing to them, it's basically as is. So, I think most people understand that, at the end of the day. I think most people do. And here's the thing, it's like, if this has really been a downgrade, they've already released images of it. They've already released videos of it. It's not like no one saw the crappy looking version and then was like, oh, okay, well, it's like if we have something awesome and then you're giving us a crappy looking base, it's going to be fairly obvious. So I don't really know what the thing is. And it's quite obvious, to be honest, that a lot of games are nerfed for the PC. Now, the PC versions, of course, most likely we're going to get mods. A lot of PC games simply are moddable. And if Watch Dogs is anything to go by, they'll just be simply a mod to make the game look better. The mod's just ridiculously, it's easy to install. I'd recommend you check out the video if you've not seen it on this channel. That's it. It was just a tiny ass little mod, and there's been better ones, or even more influential ones that are being released over the next couple of days. And obviously Watch Dogs is going to be continued to be modded. Not only that, even if you don't want to mod it, it's still going to look better than the consoles, right? Plus, as well, of course, you've got options to play in like 4K if you desire, and have much better anti-aliasing, 60 frames a second. So the thing is, even if you're a console gamer, parity isn't necessarily a good thing, because what it means is that, well, the Xbox One version theoretically won't look that much worse than the PS4, and you've also got to start wondering just how much the consoles are going to be pushed as well. That's if this stuff is true, right? The important thing is it true? It's very difficult to say when you cut, because this is the thing. If he's, let's just say his name's Bob, he can't say my name is Bob Smith and I work at this department, here are my credentials, because he's going to get fired, and probably he could even be sued because he's under NDAs. So most of the time this stuff is leaked purposefully. You know this for sure. You'll just get like an email and it will just be like an anonymous type of thing. It's pretty simple. Do I feel that there should be visual downgrades? I mean, one of the arguments that could be made and leveled is that most consumers' levels PCs probably wouldn't be able to run the game at E3 level, because I don't know what the hardware is inside that, but let's just say it was something like a Titan, Nvidia Titan. That's an expensive card. The fact of the matter is, though, in a year's time, that card isn't going to be that impressive because GPUs improve all the time, and the new Maxwell architecture that's going to be released, who knows how powerful that's really going to be in terms of raw G-flops. Simply put, if your PC can't run it now, let it be able to run it later, and this is the same approach that, for example, Doom 3 took. You can run it with the highest texture quality, and at the time it basically said, yeah, we've released it with this ridiculously high texture quality. If you decide to use it, it basically means that the textures are going to be pretty much uncompressed, but you're going to need a ridiculous amount of memory. For the time the game was released, it was like double what most GPUs had on them. And there were a couple of complaints, a couple of voices of discontent, but that was it. Even Crytek, back when they released the original Crysis, pretty much exactly the same thing. And I've done a couple of videos actually on the original Crysis, and my argument is, if you actually look at it from a really harsh, cold point of view, the graphics haven't improved amazingly from, say, Crysis 1 to, say, 3. There are improvements, definitely, but they're not incredible improvements. They're not like leaps and bounds. And the reason behind that, of course, is at the end of the day, consoles have basically kind of stalled the technological progress. Now, I don't take the same stance that a lot of PC gamers, despite the fact that I have been kind of reaming the consoles in terms of their specs, but I don't think I'm saying anything particularly new here. I mean, isn't it just kind of common knowledge at this point that PCs are significantly more powerful than consoles? I mean, sure, as not to say PC gaming is perfect, it has a lot of issues. I'm not saying that PC gaming is a nirvana. It has definitely quite a few issues regarding, for example, hacking and quite a few popular games, and there's that's a problem, and by hacking I mean people who are cheating rather than, say, pirating. Very frustrating anti-piracy measures, actually. Now I'm coming to think about bloody piracy. They could be another issue, you know, the always online connection. A couple of other problems as well, such as hardware, but primarily those are the big ones, at least in my personal opinion. Unfortunately, I guess this is just the nature of the beast. This is just one of those things we have to accept. I actually just recently covered the Batman Arkham Knight. I probably just remembered that name wrong. Yeah, Arkham Knight. You can tell I'm tired. Anyway, Arkham Knight, it is having exclusive content for the PlayStation 4. And I don't agree with that either. I don't feel that one platform should necessarily have exclusive content in it. Because let's even ignore PC from now. Let's assume that, I mean, I've got a PS4, but not, one of my friends doesn't. He's got an Xbox One. In fact, a couple of my friends only have Xbox Ones, and they want to buy Batman. So why shouldn't they get the same bloody content that I am? It's not like the Xbox One version is going to be cheaper. And I understand that sometimes there are subsidies involved from, say, Sony, to basically make exclusive content, but even so, it's a really, really annoying practice in my personal opinion, and I also feel that downgrading, and it's like, at the end of the day, certain times, certain systems are better at doing things than others, and that's just kind of how it is. Of course, consoles won't just stay at this visual acuity right now. They're gonna improve. The graphics on the systems are going to improve, but at the end of the day, they are fixed platforms. There's nothing they can do about that. And yeah, I believe that new SDKs, new improvements to the APIs, new developmental techniques, and so on will definitely improve the frame rate, will improve the visual quality. As I've said before, if you look at the first generation of Xbox 360 and certainly PS3 titles, and you compare it with the latest, one cannot argue that there wasn't significant improvements, and the same thing's definitely going to be said here. But at the end of the day, if the console was twice as powerful, if it had, say, 1 GB of RAM rather than the piddly 512 megabytes that was assigned for both systems, you would have definitely seen a rather large improvement in graphics over the software-only improvements. So anyway, this is turning into a little bit of a rant. As I said, this is not confirmed, so I don't want everyone to be going crazy on Ubisoft and other developers and publishers, but I hate visual downgrades, because it's like, first of all, you've already shown us graphics, and you know, console owners get excited because they think, oh, is that for console? That's pretty sweet. And PC owners get excited because we know that, of course, we're going to at least be able to get those graphics, if not better. And then we find out that the trailers and stuff are not going to be that, and it's just like, it's not really the way to treat players, because at the end of the day, you're just going to piss them off. At least my personal opinion. I'd like to hear yours. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.